Welcome to another video looking at various aspects of teaching and class preparation at SIU. What this presentation is designed to do is to cover the basic class and syllabus policies that we have at SIU. So what we'll start off with is I'll cover what the CBA requires you put in. I'll talk about some other university policies and things you should be aware of, and then I'll go through some tips for you that may help make your first or later semesters easier. Now, this is designed for the first time SIU instructor, but it could be worth your time. Even if you've been here one or two semesters, you may be missing one or two things that just haven't been caught by your supervisors. So, what does the CBA say? The CBA is the bargaining agreement that the union has negotiated with management. Whether or not you're a member of the union, you are represented by the CBA and you have to follow its policies. And so this time, the CBA negotiated out a number of things that have to be on the syllabus. So this is required. You need to get it to your students the first week of class. Preferably the first day, or if it's an online course, have it in there as soon as the online course opens the first day of class. But the CBA does give you the first week, so make sure you provide it to the students the first week of class. The syllabus has to list all of the different assignment types you intend the students to complete. So you need to list exams, you need to list quizzes, you need to list papers, you need to list labs if you're doing that, and whatever it is. Whatever work they're going to do that you're going to grade, that needs to be on the syllabus, and the ways in which you're going to evaluate that work needs to be on the syllabus, as well as including some sort of grade scale. What's an A, what's a B, what's a C, what's a D? Now, that may be determined by your academic unit. It may be up to you. And if it's up to you, realize you can do all sorts of things. You don't have to do 90, 80, 70, 60 like, is fairly standard. Maybe you decide your class is really hard and you bust people's butts, and if they can get an 85 in your course, you'll call that an A minus. Just let them know that. And then that's done frequently. I remember my undergrad macro econ course, the A was an 80. And so we can mess with those. If you don't want to do the 10-10-10 thing, do what you want. Just make sure it makes sense. Make sure that it's clearly explained to the students. So the evaluation needs to be on there. Any required textbooks and other materials for the course needs to be on there. Also remember, with our current contract with Follett, we're in this agreement where unless students opt out, they pay fees for books. They get charged $26 per credit hour for their books, and then the e-copies are available inside their D2L shell once they open that the first day of classes. So when Follett asks for your books, make sure you get them on time so that all works well, but then realize that most students, if they didn't opt out, will already have the electronic versions of your required texts. If you've got course fees, make sure they're on the syllabus as well, even if they're in the catalog, and they're typically in the catalog because they have to be. Put them on the syllabus too, because students don't necessarily read catalog entries. Also, any required out-of-class activities, field trips, field research, whatever it may be, if you're going to make them go see a movie off campus or whatever, anything you're going to have them do that's not in that fixed time period of the class, that needs to get on there too, so the students know and can prepare. Obviously, your contact info should be there, your campus office, your SIU phone. You can include your cell phone if you like, but your office phone has to be on there. Your SIU email needs to be on there, and don't put another email on there. We don't want students sending stuff to Yahoo or Gmail addresses. If you can't be bothered to check your SIU email address, then go into Outlook, have the settings to forward it to your Gmail or your whatever, but make sure you're putting an SIU address on there for the students. Also, make sure you've got your office hours and engagement plan on there. Per the contract, you need 6 hours a week of student engagement plan. Now, what that is up to you. That can be the standard 6 office hours. It can be anything else. That is a point where you are engaging with students. So make sure it's clear on your syllabus as to what your student engagement policy is and the spaces you're setting aside to work with students there. Also realize you need the UEP and ADA statement on your syllabus, or use the syllabus attachment. It's much easier to use the syllabus attachment that is sent out by the provost office every semester. And not only has those statements on it, it also has a long list of useful offices and numbers for students. So it's an incredibly informative and useful piece of information that you should just append to your syllabus as it comes out every semester. Some other university policies, no-show reporting. You need to pay attention during the first 10 days of class, those are the first 2 weeks. Students have to show up and participate in class at that time. If they are neither attending nor participating in any way, when you get an email from the provost that explains how to do no-show reporting, you'll get one earlier in the semester, then you need to report them as a no-show. What that means is their classes get canceled, they're removed from university. Why? Because they're not going to class. If they're getting, this is done because of federal and state financial aid, that's all taxpayer money, we're giving these students financial resources to attend university, and if they're not doing that, then those resources get taken away. So that's what no-show reporting about. It's a long-time scam. It was particularly popular in community colleges. Was, where you've got lower income people, get on the Pell Grant, get on the MAP grant, get enrolled in your local community college. Don't pass anything, don't go to class, just flounder, but stretch that aid out as long as it goes until they cut you off. Yeah, you can't do that anymore. So now if you're not working, the aid is taken away. You have to repay it. It's very important. Pay attention and then fill out accurately that no-show census when you're asked to. 2, entering midterm and final grades. Somewhere around week 6 or 7, and then sometime again around week 13 or 14, you'll get an email from the provost's office that will say, hey, grades, midterm or final grades will open for entry on X date. And then they will give you a link. If you don't want to use that email, you can also go in. There's a widget in your SalukiNet where you can go into your grades. It takes you right into Banner. And it's got your courses there in the drop-down menus, and you put in your grades. You have to have final grades in by the time the provost says they're due. And this is typically Wednesday at noon, the day after the semester's over. So we end the semester on a Friday, have commencement over that weekend, and then Wednesday at noon, grades are due. If you don't have them turned in by then, one, you're going to make our dean mad because the dean wants 100% compliance with that. And 2, you're going to have to fill out a grade change card for every single student. So if you're teaching a 70-person lecture and you don't get those grades in on time, you're filling out 70 grade change cards, which means 70 names, means 70 dog tags. That means writing out the course, name, number, CRN 70 times. That means writing the change from NR to whatever their grade is 70 times. It's a lot of work. You don't want to do that work. Get the grades in on time. Now, at this point in time, midterm grades are optional. I strongly, strongly, strongly encourage you to post midterm grades. One, it's good for the students. The students like that hard set. I know exactly where I'm at in week 8. That helps me know what I need to do the second half of the semester. Do I keep doing what I'm doing? Do I ramp it up? What do I do? So those midterm grades help. Those midterm grades are also super useful for advisors, for R&Rs, for associate deans like myself, for any of us that have to deal with student problems throughout the semester. It's particularly often useful to have that midterm grade there because that's a reflection, a partial reflection, of what the student has or hasn't been doing this semester. So they're not required, but I personally ask each and every one of you to put in your midterm grades every semester because it's very, very helpful to the students and then other people on campus that are trying to help those students. Now, if you find out that a student has a problem, let's say a student tells you something happened to them. Let's say a student vanishes from class for 2 weeks or stops turning in their homework. Or let's say for the first 3 weeks, they're there with bells on, taking notes, good questions, everything's okay. And then in week 4, they're there, but they sleep Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. something's going on. When you see something going on with a student, fill out a Sluky Cares report. You can just Google Sluky Cares on the website. It'll take you to the site. You can fill out the form anonymously, but you don't need to as a faculty member. You can put that stuff in. You talk about the student. You say what's wrong. You submit that report. That goes to Gina Albert, who's our Assistant Dean of Students. She reviews the report. She either takes care of it or she forwards it to Anoja Karupu, the college's R&R, who then takes care of it. The point being, file a report if you think a student needs help, and then people well trained to provide that assistance will jump on it and get it done. So that's a very easy mechanism for you to help your students out when you notice something is going on. Grade changes. What happens if you want to change a grade after you've submitted it? Well, you have to fill out a grade change card. And this is, that yellow electronic card that you can get that you have to fill out and submit. Now, what you can't do per policy is change a letter grade to a letter grade. So if you give a student a B on the final grade roster, if you then need to change it to something else for whatever reason, we're going to need a memo. Even if it's as simple as, I messed up the drop-down menu. I gave Jimmy a B. He really had an A-. I missed it by one spot. I just had to go back in there and check that. They need a memo for that. Is it a 2-line memo? Yeah, but it's still there for auditing purposes for the registrar's office, and they will require that memo. So generally, we're not allowed to change letter grades to letter grades. And usually it's those little things like that, just stupid mistakes on behalf of the person entering the grade. Those go through no problem. We know you're human. We know you make mistakes. However, let's say class ends and your student, Jill, is sick and misses a final, sends you an email. Let's say your final's on Thursday. You get an email from her Saturday morning that explains that she was down with the flu. She even has an excuse and everything. And so you say, well, okay, come on in and take the exam. And she can't take it until the next Friday for whatever reason. So grades are due. You know that I've already told you. So like Associate Dean Mullins has already told me I have to get my grades in on time or I'll get yelled at. So I'm going to go ahead and report what she has now. Then she comes in, she takes the exam, and I change the grade. No. We cannot allow students to do work after the semester ends without prior authorization and circumstances. And when you have those prior issues, you do it through an incomplete. So you give the student an incomplete, and then you change the incomplete to the letter grade once the student has finished the incomplete. So even with that case I just gave, it's only a couple days. Now, that instructor should have filed that incomplete by Wednesday morning, and then when the student took the exam, and that's fine to have that set up in that way. And then when the student took the exam, they go back and they change the incomplete to the letter grade. You shouldn't have submitted the letter grade that the student was at the time, and then go back and change it by letting them take the exam. So in that case, you violated grading policy and you violated our policy about no work after the term, and we probably won't change that grade. The registrar's office is going to give you a no. It's going to reject it. So grade changes. If it's an incomplete to a grade, that's fine. If it's a no report or an R to a grade, that's fine. Any letter grade to letter grade changes, I'm going to need a memo. And hopefully it's not too egregious in violation of policies, and we can convince the registrar's office to get it through. So those are the grade changes. Late admits. Students can do anything they want to their schedule up through the end of the first day of class, or first week of class, I'm sorry. So you can see students coming and going. You'll have a student there on Monday that will vanish and not show up the rest of the semester. You'll have new students come in on Wednesday and Friday if it's a Monday, Wednesday, Friday class. So expect a lot of churn that first week. That's why we have our advisors block off that first week for walk-ins, because everyone's changing their schedule. In week 2, the student needs your permission as the instructor, and they need my permission as the associate dean to admit them to that class. So if a student comes up to you in week 2 and says, hey, I know it's late, but I need this class, or I want this class, or whatever, will you let me in? And if you're okay with that, say sure. And then you'll tell the advisor, and then I'll get the grade change from I'll get the CRF for late admit from the advisor. He'll tell me as instructor permission. And if you're good with it in week 2, I'm good with it. I trust you. That's fine. I'll approve it. For a 16-week semester, week 3, not unless you have a very good reason and not unless you can establish that student has been coming to class and doing the work for the first 2 weeks of class. Otherwise, students are getting too far behind. And when you let a student start in week 3, you're setting the student up to fail. They're already missed work they've got to catch up on. They're constantly getting new stuff tacked on top of them. Students say they can catch up. It's no problem. Faculty often think, well, we didn't do a lot those first couple weeks, so it's okay. But really, after that second week, you're entering a danger zone and you're putting the student unnecessarily at risk. Therefore, I won't approve anything after week 2 for a 16-week course, unless, as I said, you're like, well, no, the student's been there the whole time. They thought they were registered. They just realized they weren't. And I can verify their attendance for, these last 3 weeks. Okay, well then, yeah, no, I'll approve that because the student's been doing the work. But if a student's wanting to start a course fresh during week 3 or week 4 or week 5, while you can say yes, I'm going to say no. So keep those late admits down. Second week is okay. If it's okay with you, if it's not, it's not. You can tell them no. You don't have to approve anything that second week. After that, there are none, and feel free to blame me. I don't mind at all if you throw me under the bus and told us you can tell a student, well, I really wouldn't mind letting you in, but the associate dean says no. That's fine. It's my job, and then I'll answer an angry student email if I have to. But that's the way we do things. Academic honesty, make sure you've got a section on your syllabus. The student code of conduct covers academic honesty in full. It's typically useful just to link them to and point them to that area of the catalog. You don't have to put that all in there. And then, you may make a remark about how you approach it. You'll also need an AI policy. And I strongly recommend everyone have one. There's no university policy, and there's not one coming. There's no college policy. I don't know if there's one coming. We're talking about it, but we've got 6 different schools that are vastly different in their curricula and their approaches. And so I'm not really sure that a college level policy is the best way to go. Personally, I think we should see it at the school level. Whatever. If your school or your unit has an AI policy that they've developed, please put it on the syllabus and please follow it. If they don't, then you need to make one up. You need to have it on your syllabus and you need to follow it. And that's important because the syllabus is what guides investigations. So if you have nothing on your syllabus about AI and a student uses AI in a way you think is inappropriate in your course, and you discipline them for that in some way, removing points or making them redo or whatever, if you don't have an AI policy, that student can grieve and that student's going to win. Because the first thing that's going to happen is both the school director and the dean's office is we're going to look at that syllabus. And if there's nothing on that syllabus that says you can't use AI, then you can't punish them for it. Realize that students are using AI. Some of them are using it in a good way. Write a paper, put it through AI looking for grammar, spelling, that sort of thing. They use it as a peer reader or proofreader. Awesome use of ChatGPT. Some students, again, they're using it smartly. Others are using it to do the work for them. They're using it to cheat, and that's where you need to have policies in place. They'll just plug the prompt right into the chat engine and see what spits out. Now, because they're lazy and they like to cut and paste instead of retype, what some professors have done to get around this, or at least to put a little pit stop in here, is you can add language to that prompt, but in the Word document or the PDF, have it colored white. That way it's not going to show up on the screen. It's not going to show up on a printout. But if they copy the block, they'll end up copying that text. That will go into the chatbot, and the chatbot will talk about it. So when you get assignments back addressing that hidden aspect of the prompt that no one's supposed to see, then you know they copied the prompt and plugged it into AI. Things like that. So, and I'm hoping to offer workshops in the future on how to deal with AI. Craig does a lot of stuff like that over at CTE. So make sure it's on your syllabus, because you can't discipline a student if the rules aren't there. And there are no AI rules on campus at the moment, which means you need to make them for your class. Class cancellations. We all have to miss class, whether we get the flu, whether we're going to a conference for whatever reason. When you cancel class, just make sure you're giving the students alternative work that covers the same number of contact minutes that the class would. So if you're canceling 3 50-minute classes, make sure you're giving them 150 minutes worth of work. This deals with state articulation, and states certify the degrees because of so many hours that they require that the students be there. And when you start canceling classes, we can start getting into a weird space. So just make sure you got something to do. Assign them an article and have them, fill out a worksheet or respond to discussion questions about it. Have them see a film. If you've got a TA, this is an awesome job for the TA to get some experience in actually leading the class. So while you're gone, have the TA do the lectures and discussions. Whatever you do, make sure they're doing something. Just don't have them doing nothing, because one, you're taking away education that they've paid for in the tuition, and two, the state does have minimum hours of contact in order to certify an awarded class within a degree. So be careful with that. Just make sure they've got something else to do. Okay, some tips. Again, make sure that there's a clear attendance policy on your syllabus. Make sure all your due dates are there and they're bolded and italicized and whatever. Your makeup work policies, if you have one, your AI use policies, make sure all of that's on the syllabus and make sure it's all clear, and go through it and make sure the students get it. Because if there's a grievance, I just mentioned this, what guides the syllabus guides the investigation. So when I get a student grade grievance came up to me from the school director, my first thing is I want to look at the syllabus. What's that say? And if your behavior and the way you approach the situation is directly in line with that syllabus, then the grievance is moot, unless you've got a rule-breaking rule on your syllabus. Now, if you follow the syllabus, you're okay. Now, if there's nothing on the syllabus, who knows what will happen. And I will say, just a couple months ago, we had a grade grievance, and it was from the students' behalf, one of the weakest grade grievances I had seen since I'd been up here. I mean, it was bad. Normally, that would have been a open and shut no to the student. But professor didn't have a syllabus. There's nothing to do. There was no laying out of the actual policy that the student ran afoul of. And we had no choice but to find for the favor of the student and have the remedy that the student requested implemented. Why? No syllabus. Make sure it's there, make sure it's clear, and know that if there's a problem, that's where we're going to go. And also, it is and isn't a contract. It's an agreement between you and the students of how the course is going to proceed. If you violate it and a student tries to drag you into civil court saying it's a contract, no, that's not going to work. That's going to kick out. It's not the type of contract that we teach about in torts over in either paralegal studies or the law school. But it is a solid agreement, and on campus, particularly when you're stating policies, it pretty much will be treated as a contract, because in the syllabus you're saying this is what I will and will not allow. And then if you're trying to implement that, we will see if you're implementing, policy based on what's in your syllabus. So it's not a legal contract. It kind of bugs me when I hear people say that it is, but it is an agreement. It is a contract in the loose sense of the term, and you should be abiding by it. And again, if there are disputes, that's where we start. Also, I strongly encourage you to have a 16-week lesson plan. I know that can be hard, especially the first time you've taught the course, but it's worthwhile to do because, well, one, you have a solid plan, particularly if it's the first time you've taught the course. You've got a solid plan of what you're doing every week and you're ready to go, so that's going to keep you online. It's going to keep the students on track too. Most of our students work, many of them work more than one job. Many of our students have families and other non-educationally related obligations. The day of the traditional live in the dorm college life student is long over, and I think we know that. Most of our students need a 16-week lesson plan to plan ahead because when they get that syllabus in January or August, they know they've got stuff going on in October or April or whatever, and so they're going to have to work their stuff around. And so they want to see, okay, this is what my classes are having me doing, and then this is how I can fit in my other stuff. They'll have to take class schedules to work and things like that. So 16-week plans, they're not required, but they're highly encouraged, and I think you'll find that things will go much, much more smoothly if you've got a lesson plan than if you don't. Some other things, Center for Teaching Enhancement, they do Spark Week the first week of every semester, and then they offer workshops all semester long about all sorts of teaching enhancement things, you know, talking pedagogy, talking how to do things in D2L, all sorts of stuff. Now, they also have on staff people that will help you, say, if you're trying to turn course materials into digital materials, either for a face-to-face or an online student. They have lesson designers there. We have one specifically for the college, and she's awesome. Take advantage of CTE, that's Craig Instrom's outfit, and he provides a lot every year to help the faculty become better at what they're doing to help our students. 2, refer to students to tutoring, the Writing Center, or academic coaching whenever you think they need it. Those are all available. They're all worked out of the Tutoring Center on the 7th floor of the library, and for students, they're all free. And students can make appointments by using a widget in their SalukiNet. They don't even have to go to the library. I'll go to a special web page. They just have to go to SalukiNet, click on that widget, and then they can set up whatever they want. And again, it's all free. So definitely, as soon as you see that a student may need any of these services, direct them to it. Model the behavior you want to see in your students. This is very important. You are the leader here, and the way you approach things and the way you act and present yourself is going to have a huge effect on how the students read you, respond to you, and act themselves. So language. If you're a faculty member that likes to drop a dirty word here or there, it's not directly against policy, although if you're doing it to the point where you're using a lot of profanity and offending students, you'll get in trouble. But if you drop a bad word, your students are going to start dropping them. Just be ready for it. You've given them the cue that it's okay. Same thing with your demeanor, your dress. Treat them with respect at all times. They'll treat you with respect. So keep those things in mind, and also maintain transparency. This is something we're finding more and more in the literature. When things, and it makes sense, when things are clearer, students do better. When things are transparent, students do better. It's strongly encouraged, for example, to take your student learning outcomes that you have on the first page of the syllabus and walk your students through them that first day and explain to them, why are we doing this? Why does this course want you to do that? Why is that important? Why is that important? Lift the curtain, show them why these outcomes are the ones that we need for the course. And then as you go through the course, constantly link back to those outcomes. Show the students what you're doing. There is method to your madness. Let them know what it is. 1, it will help them do better because they can then know what's going on a little bit better. And 2, they'll have more respect for you. They'll show that you've been transparent. They'll be more willing to work with you. They'll be more willing typically to engage. Respond quickly to emails. Really, 24 hours, Monday to Friday, is a good time frame. You really should have those emails responded to within 24 hours, 48 hours at the latest. You can skip weekends if you want. Some people do, some people don't. I skip. I tell students I'll answer email on the weekends. If you email me on Saturday, I'll get back to you Monday. But respond to them quickly outside of the weekend. That tells the students you're paying attention. That tells them you care. That tells them you take their issues seriously. And obviously respond in a respectful manner, in a helpful manner. Grade in a reasonable time frame. Don't sit on papers or exams 3, 4, 5 weeks before you get feedback to students. Students need feedback immediately so they can change and improve themselves. I always handed my exams back early within the first week after they took them. And then I would tell students that did poorly, okay, now we've got 6 weeks until the next exam. Those of you who didn't do too well, come into my office. We can talk about things. We can get you back on top. We can get you moving. But I also tell them you have to get engaged with me now, because if you wait to the day before the next exam and say, hey, what am I doing wrong? It's too late. You've already been doing those same behaviors. You'll see the same results on this test. So you need to grade in a reasonable time frame so the students get their feedback and can adjust their behavior and adjust their performance more towards your liking and do what you're wanting them to do. This is especially important if you're in a reduced length term. If you're teaching a 4-week class or an 8-week class, make sure you're definitely getting things back as quickly as possible. Yeah, that's rough on you. I've taught both 4 and 8-week classes. You've got to carve a lot of time out and make sure you're not doing much else during that time, especially a 4-week class. But it's possible. And if I'm in an 8-week class and I wait 3 weeks to get students' exam results back, boy, it's the end of the semester basically, and they just learned how they did on exam 1, so they have no idea how to prepare for the final. Reasonable time frame. Again, it doesn't have to be the next class period, but it shouldn't be too long because they need that feedback to adjust what they're doing so they can have better performance. Do your best to keep your grades live. Every time you're grading and you're done grading, enter it in to the gradebook in D2L and release it to your students. A lot of students like to know where they are at any given minute, and that allows you don't even have to do grades for students. You can just say, hey, it's in D2L. And they can go there anytime and see exactly where they're at. And they can look at your grading scale and see what they need to do to get where they need to be. But keep them live so they know where they're at. Otherwise, you create an incredible amount of student anxiety, and you also generate quite a bit of student distrust, which is the last thing you want. So keep those grades live so students know where they're at. And as I said before, keep your eyes on your students. You're the first line of contact. You're the one that sees them every week. You know where they're supposed to be at a given time. You're giving them work, you're interacting with them, you're expecting certain things out of them. You're going to notice if something's not right with a student first. Okay, well, maybe their roommate or their friend will notice first. But among the adults, amongst the university faculty, you're going to be the first one to catch it. As soon as you catch it, Sluky Cares report, let Gina know, let's get a NOSA on the case, let's get the student helped. That is the main goal of those Sluky Cares reports, and that's the main goal of you keeping an eye on them. So if they trip or slip, we can get them immediately, find out what they need, and keep them here and keep them successful. And that's our goal from our side. Your job is just to let us know there's something going on. Thank you for your time. I hope you found these tips and guidelines helpful. As always, if you have any questions or concerns about your duties, especially as they relate to curriculum or students, feel free to contact me at any time.